Hello and welcome to the Communication Studies for Life podcast, sponsored by the Department of Communication Studies at Furman University. I'm your host, Professor Lee Boggs, with student host Lee Mowry, and our guest is Jamarcus Gaston, class of 2007, from WSPA, the CBS News affiliate in Spartanburg. Good afternoon, Jamarcus.
Good afternoon, Professor.
And Lee, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Jamarcus is the department's Alumni of the Month for January 2018. It's a recognition that the department started in the fall of 2017 in alignment with the Furman Advantage, which was launched to prepare students for lives of purpose, successful careers, and community benefit. Guest speakers share their life and work experiences, enrich students' growth as well-rounded individuals who will be positively engaged at work and thrive in all aspects of their lives. Jamarcus, you just talked with a lecture hall of students about your time at Furman and your career now as a host of Scene on 7 at WSPA. Let's start with you giving some background about yourself. Tell us about your experience at Furman and how that helped lead you to where you are now.
Well, my experiences at Furman were integral in helping me mold that into a career that I have today as a television host and television producer. I started out in the Furman Communications Department, graduated, and through the Furman Advantage, I actually went to, got an internship during the summer of my junior year at Furman, and then from that internship at WSP, I got my first job after I graduated and kind of got my hands into the television community and television world, and from there started out as a marketing promotions producer with WSPA News, and then my first on-air job as a reporter and digital journalist with Scene on 7, and then I was promoted to host and producer of my own morning show, Studio 62. And then most recently, I was promoted to be the co-host and co-producer of Scene on 7, which is a primetime nightly news magazine show. And so getting started with cameras and broadcast journalism and working in the studio here at Furman really gave me the basis of knowledge to be able to go and kind of do the same thing in a professional arena. And of course, I was hungry and engaged from the beginning, so that kind of really helped me kind of follow that to the next level.
So altogether, you've been with WSPA how many years?
10 years, a whole decade.
So you went from your internship,
like literally the next day, or the next day after graduating in 2007, I went straight into work at WSPA, and I've been there ever since. So we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary here from Furman. So
great,
amazing. So Jamarcus, was there one activity, course, or person that you can point to at Furman that specifically influenced you?
Well, I mean, Dr. Armstrong here in the Communication Studies Department, at that time, teaching broadcast journalism, the one class that I took that was kind of hands-on with broadcast journalism, we had to do these stories on different things, and he would watch the stories and, give everyone feedback. But he was always complimentary, but I think he kind of pulled me outside after one class and said, you have a great voice, you have a great presentation, you would be really good at this career, so if there's something that you want to do, be sure to keep after it and let me know if there's anything I can do to be of help to you. And that kind of lit a fire within me to want to do more of it and to really say, is this something really I could do? I've always enjoyed people, I've always enjoyed stories, I love the television medium, so maybe this is what I wanted to do. I was a music major, and I figured out that I didn't want to be a teacher, even though that's what I came here to do, to be a music educator. I was like, maybe there's more to me because I had more interest, and so that's why I kind of signed up for the Communication Studies Department. But it was Dr. Armstrong saying, you can do this. He having worked in television, knew what it took to be a television host, producer, professional. So he kind of said, go after it, and so I never looked back. So I give him a majority of the credit for giving me that first foray into the media world.
So that positive reinforcement is something that helped propel you.
It did, because I had never even thought about television as a career until, I was a Furman journalist, a freshman journalist here on campus my freshman year in school, so I kind of gotten into sharing my life and kind of blogging and talking about the university and kind of my experiences freshman year. So I had that, and it was kind of in the back of my mind, but it never had been verbalized or even conceptualized as something that I could do until I took that class and I was actually doing it. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is something that I can get paid to do. And so,
getting paid's good.
Yeah, and Dr. Armstrong is just one of those educators who really brings the energy and inspires the crowd.
He does, and you know, and there's such a hands-on thing too. I mean, a lot of times you have classes that you just don't. You learn a lot, like book-wise, and you know, and things like that, and lecture. But this was such a hands-on thing that you had a tangible takeaway from it. When you're working on a story on campus, that you could show to your class and say, "Hey, this is something I worked on." It can air on the you know, closed circuit television here. I like the aspect of that, being able to kind of really get your hands onto the equipment that then when I graduated Furman I was using at my station, and I was very familiar with it. So it really was a really big payoff of being comfortable with in my skin, even coming from Furman. Everyone was like, oh, you know, which big school did you go to? And you know, there's some big schools that are in the media world here locally and around in South Carolina, and they were all surprised that I came from Furman being a strong television personality. And I'm like, well, you know, they taught all the bases that you needed to be able to be a strong in any profession you would choose.
Right, and like you said during the career presentation, it's that well-rounded liberal arts background that maybe gave you a little bit of an advantage in that area.
It did. It gave me an edge amongst people that were like competitors or coworkers. You know, I would never just take no for an answer. I always wonder why and how and what can I do to kind of make it better, to do more work to make sure that the problems that people are seeing are something that we can maybe get over in the future. So I never took no for an answer, and I think a lot of that came from the type of student that Furman recruits are students that are just really interested in why things are the way they are and how you can make them not that way.
Right.
So it's really,
they have a lot of drive.
They have a lot of drive, and no one. And I had been told a lot. I know a lot, but I mean, I didn't listen to any of that. And it's like, hey, why not? Because I mean, the fact that you could go from being an intern at a station to having your own morning show on that same network in 6 years is kind of a credit to the fact that I didn't take no for an answer.
Right. It's pretty nice.
It's pretty nice.
Jamarcus, can you walk us through a typical day in the office for you?
Yeah, and in television, there's probably no such thing as a typical day, because everything gets kind of thrown on its head in TV, where somebody will drop by that you didn't expect to drop by, or you know, things like that. But I usually I work in downtown Greenville, and so I drive from Spartanburg every day because that's where I live, and that's where previously the studio that I worked out of was. So I drive over through traffic, which is always interesting getting into downtown Greenville, but
certainly.
And I get in the morning, and I immediately go upstairs and start working on that day's shows, because I'm filling in right now on a morning show that is all about topical things. So we're looking for things that we can talk about. And you know, I also produce for the nighttime show, so I'm always finishing up my segments that are airing that day and talking to guests and returning emails and things like that. And then we have a couple of editorial meetings with our staff for both of those shows. And then at 10 o'clock, it's live on the air, where we are doing a morning show where I get to sit next to the legendary TV host Jack Roper and Megan Heidelberg, who's on maternity leave right now. I'm filling in for her for the next 3 months. So, and then after that, we have a short little lunch break, and then we kind of get geared up for the taping for the evening show, which we tape every day at around noon, 12:30. So we tape that show, and it usually takes about an hour or so to move the sets in and move them out, prep the guests, set up props and things like that. So that takes a little bit of time. And then once we're done with that, in the afternoon, I usually go back to my desk, a real glamorous time of, you know, returning emails about guests that are wanting to come on the show and helping them get ready and prepared to be on TV. Doing social media things. In the afternoons, there may be events where you go to visit schools or go and visit and kind of scout a place that wants to be on the show, things like that. And then once I go home, my laptop is always open to our remote desktop system, so I can work from home and kind of go through some of the other things that, because a guest could cancel at any moment, so then I have to like react to that in the middle of the day. Usually at night is events or, you know, things like that they expect you to do as a television host, volunteer events, social events, and things like that. So it's always a an interesting day.
Right.
But it's typical day. It's always thrown off because you're in the downtown where different things happen. Even in my studio in Spartanburg, one day they came and said the president's coming today.
Oh, yeah.
So we had to leave because
Right.
they had to sweep the studio and do that. So it's always something.
Okay. Do you have any particular story that you worked on that stays in your memory that really struck you in some sort of way?
I'm trying to think of that. People ask that question a lot about stories that you really like, and I really harken back to the reporting days, because now as a host, you get most of the stories all come to you in the studio, so that's a different type of experience. But really, the stories that I've always was intrigued by as a reporter were stories that were a little quirky, that involve subcultures of people that are usually misunderstood. Like one time I did a story on polyamory and a polyamorous relationship, so that was interesting. I've gone and spent a day at a nudist resort, and so there is always something that I have no bearings or a relationship with, but it's really people that, because I really believe, I know it sounds quirky and corny, that everyone has a story, and we know that, but sometimes it just takes someone interested to kind of go and tell it. So those have always been my most fun stories, because it's like trying to interview someone that's nude and
Right.
ask them questions that, and then also shooting it in a way so that it doesn't reveal anything. That's all. It doesn't get any crazier than that.
Yeah.
And, but you also have stories where you interview celebrities, and celebrities are always an interesting case. But you never know what they're going to say. Like I've interviewed Dolly Parton, and she told me that she wanted to start a theme park with me, so I thought that was cool. But she didn't write it. She didn't put it in writing or anything.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so I didn't get any money or any rewards from that. Any of the money that she would make from that type of.
Well, there's still
adventure.
time. Maybe it'll happen.
Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it'll
We're
happen.
looking out for Jamarcus.
Yeah,
Well, now.
exactly.
All right. So, what do you suggest communication students focus on while they're here at Furman, still in the classroom, and to help them get into maybe the field that you're in communications, journalism,
Yeah.
or TV hosting?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, Furman has a great setup here with classes in broadcast journalism, public speaking, taking all the communications law classes you can, so that you know all the information there is to know about what you can and can't do, ethics, and
Like libel and
yeah,
slander, right?
all that stuff, because that's all important to be. Everything we do has to be ethical, and I think that those are good classes to have. But I would say that students just need to prepare themselves for, if you're going into television, if you're looking to go into media, to not let the first time that you pick up a video camera or an editing software or any type of podcasting equipment, don't let it be the first day you have a job in that to do that, because it will be an embarrassing setup. And
Lots of
hopefully,
practice.
and hopefully you wouldn't be hired if that was your first, your first foray into the business. So I would say be as familiar with it, because a lot of these equipment is available here at Furman, either for rent or in a way, checked out and then brought back. So I think just get your hands really dirty when it comes to learning the equipment in a non-pressure environment, because after you have a job in TV hosting, like, people expect you to know certain things. So I think that going into it, the more you can know in that first internship is vital. And definitely take that first internship. I don't care where it is. It can be at a local nonprofit that's looking for some public relations work, but that can get you some experience into doing that. That makes you more hireable.
Build up your portfolio and
It
build
does.
up your,
And then who knows, when you graduate college, that nonprofit that you volunteered with and you did a great job with could be looking for someone to hire to take that position because you did such a good job with it. And that's kind of similar to what happened to me at WSPA when I was an intern and did some really good things there and impressed some key people. And so when I applied for a job that I wasn't particularly interested in, because it wasn't on air, but I realized that you're not going to just come in and be the television host. You're not going to be, Lester Holt the first day of your internship and out of your internship. So it takes some steps, taking those key steps to getting where you want to go.
Okay.
And now, when you're not behind a camera, what are some things you're doing in the community outside of work?
Yeah, they kind of meld together in a way that I feel like the on-air brand of supporting local businesses is what we do on a daily basis. That does spill over into volunteering for these different groups, whether it's emceeing an event for a humane society or emceeing an event for. I'm on the board of the Ballet Spartanburg because I really wanted my life to kind of bleed over into an area where if you're passionate about the arts and you promote that daily on a television show. So surely when you have personal time that you should also put your energy and volunteering time into those organizations. So I try to go to as many of the events as I can to promote and also to volunteer in any way I can or give money to them. If we have someone on the show that comes and tells us about a benefit that they're having, that they're selling pancakes or whatever they are, then on Saturday morning I'll try to get up and go buy some pancakes. So I try to do that as much as I can, and my calendar stays pretty full with different things going on in the community that I'm lucky enough to be invited to, and I hope to do even more of that as time allows. You stay so busy with doing the TV show and doing all that stuff. You try to make some time for yourself to go relax.
Of course.
And speaking of that, so outside of work, outside of volunteer work, outside of driving 85 trying to get to work, what do you? Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do for fun? Do you have hobbies? You working on outside projects?
Yeah,
what's going on?
I don't do any outside projects. I'm definitely not a DIY person, but I like to be outside a lot. I hike a lot, and so being in this area, we have so many great areas to hike and get outdoors, and whether it's in Asheville or Northern Greenville and Travelers Rest and places like that. So every opportunity I can, I'm probably hiking a new trail, or I really like photography, which kind of plays into my interest in like the visual part of the job. So I take a lot of photos, and like social media is fun for me because I get to aggregate content that kind of gives people a window, and people are more interested in what you do off of the air than they do when you're on the air. So that kind of feeds into that. And other than that, I just like being. My family lives close to the area now, and so I like hanging out with mom and dad. I was just talking about this morning how it's interesting that now your parents or your friends, you get to hang out with them. So anytime I can go and have dinner with mom and pops, it's always
that makes it easier being nearby.
It does,
right?
Yeah, and they get to watch the shows too, which they give their instant feedback. They're my own little focus group.
Oh, that's great. All right, well, good. Well, thank you, Jamarcus, for coming in and taking the time to visit with us today and share your story with Furman students and letting them know what they can do to prepare for a career like the one that you're in. And this has been the Communication Studies for Life podcast. We would love to hear from other alumni. You may contact the Department of Communication Studies at communicationstudies@furman.edu and connect with us on social media. And just want to say thanks again to our guest, Jamarcus Gaston.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. Go Dens.
All right, and thank you, Lee, for helping out and joining us.
It was great talking to all you guys.
And have a great day, everyone.